Well, our myth busting continues today with the top 5 myths that your doctor believes about hormones and autoimmunity. But Dr. Maggie is here to crush those false narratives.
And I think it's really heartbreaking, actually. I mean, I think about how many videos and trainings and case studies we have brought to the community and the social and on social media, just about how important and how much of a holy grail hormone balance is to autoimmunity. Yet, what's heartbreaking to me is doctors out there are still completely ignorant about the crucial role of hormones in turning around people's autoimmunity. And if they're confused and they believe these myths,
Mhm.
all of you out there are kind of shit out of luck. Excuse my French. I'm a fan of the cursey words. So today what we're going to do, I mean, just so you guys know, there was over 20 posts just in the last 2 weeks in the Facebook community begging people for insight as to what the heck do my hormones have to do with autoimmune. And there were all these questions about how do I get tested, all this stuff. And so that's why I felt compelled, just due to the sheer volume of posts,
Mm.
to bring our Mythbuster series to our hormone balancing. So today we're going to bust the top 5 myths your doctors believe about hormones that's wrecking your autoimmunity. Here we go.
Thank you for joining us for Autoimmune Table Talk Live. I'm your co-host, Anna Manuel, alongside Dr. Maggie Yu. Dr. Maggie, you are really answering a need, a call. People have so
Mhm.
many questions about hormones and autoimmunity, and very thankful that you're spending the time on this today.
Well, and I'm compelled to do it. And I'm compelled to do it because some of you have heard my story around this. And my autoimmune journey started with hormonal hell. And so before I get started, though, I would love every single one of you who's watching right now to tell me what hormone struggles you're dealing with and what autoimmune struggles you're struggling with, because I'd love to like tie it together for you. So put it into the chat. If you're an alumni or you're someone who've gone through one of our programs or my hormone masterclass, comment in chat. Tell me what hormonal and autoimmune struggles you've overcome. Why don't you share that with our audience? Let's do that right now. First of all, my history, just to give you guys a heads up, is that I was a family medicine physician about 10 years in practice before my health really came crashing down. And it started with early menopause at the age of 36. And I was told by my colleagues that I was fine. I didn't need my hormones tested. Nothing was wrong. I was menstruating. And I even got, it's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, Dr. Maggie. You need to go get on some antidepressants and birth control pills. I did all of the above and I got worse, and it triggered the worst flare of autoimmunity. And I had no idea it was even autoimmune disease. So full circle moment, it really, what happened is as I got more and more, I became a bioidentical hormone expert as a result of that, learning it for myself, practicing it. And I turned from family practitioner to a hormone expert in Portland, Oregon, and one of the only few MDs really who was truly working on hormone balancing because I had learned so much about it and I had used that information to save my own life. And then fast forward, I realized a lot of people when I got diagnosed with autoimmune disease, I realized how much it was a big piece of my health. And I realized and started working with people. And I realized, wow, a lot of these people having a lot of these hormone struggles, 80-90% of them actually were struggling with an autoimmune issue. So they were totally linked. Thus, that was the birth of the hormone pillar of our transform protocol,
Mhm.
really pointing how crucial it is for you to understand what hormone balance is and why when your hormones are not balanced, it is the biggest trigger of autoimmune disease. How many of you got your autoimmune disease diagnosed or worse postpartum?
Mhm.
Certain times of the month. Me
Yep.
too. Around menopause, postmenopause, post-hysterectomy, right? How many of you are between the age of 35 and 50 and that's when your autoimmune disease was diagnosed or the worst? It's hormones, everybody. So, and I mean, I can't spout this enough, but yet I feel like even after the last 6 years in social media, teaching, training, bringing case studies, doctors are completely ignorant about this. And I sure as hope as hell that those of you in our community and those of you in our alumni shout from the rooftops how important this is and how much you know about it and how much it's changed your life or how much you want to know about it. Comment in the comment section.
I know. And it's like, I've heard alumni say this to you before as well, but nothing can ever happen to Dr. Maggie because you mentioned you're a hormone expert. I don't know that there are other hormone experts out there specifically as it relates to autoimmunity. There are none that I've been able to find, which is how I found you in the first place. So thank you for imparting your knowledge because nobody else has it, frankly, just to be point blank.
Well, and here's the thing though, Anne, when you say that there are no doctors who are actually experts on hormone balance for autoimmunity, there are very few to no doctors who are actually experts on hormone balance. And if you stick around for the end of this, we're going to talk about that. That's going to be hugely eye-opening for you. Stick around. Who is who is a hormone balancing expert? That discussion is going to blow your freaking mind.
Okay, I look forward to it. And yeah, please continue the comments. People are telling us how they are dealing with hormone imbalances as it relates to autoimmunity. We want to hear from you so that we know what issues you're experiencing. And so Dr. Maggie can be better equipped to address it and talk with you a little bit about it. But you have some big, big myths out there, top 5 myths that doctors believe about hormones. And if your doctor is believing this, where does that leave us?
Shit out of luck. Excuse me, I'm a fan of the cursey words. The number one myth that we have is you don't need to get your hormones tested, little lady. I got that one as a doctor from my colleagues, the OBGYNs. I actually told this to patients. And to me, people, conventional doctors, number one, we're not trained how to test hormones. We don't even know when to test it. We don't even know the right test to run. And we sure as hell don't know what to do with the results. We read the little block over there, says normal range. And we're like, oh, that's good. You're fine. But since we don't know anything about it, most of us are like, are you menstruating? Oh, your hormones are fine. It's going to be normal for a menstruating female. Or we're going to test it and it's not going to be accurate anyway. It fluctuates all the time. So you don't need to test it. Oh, you're postmenopausal or you've had a hysterectomy. You don't have periods anymore. Hormones aren't even that important. You don't need to be tested. It's just going to show that you are a low postmenopausal normal. Why bother testing it? This is what people are being told all the time, Anne.
But it's so frustrating because people understand that during times in their cycle or whatever it is that's happening with their body, they know something is off hormonally. And they're going to their doctor asking for help and they're just not getting it. They're hitting a wall.
They are. And the thing is, I hear this all the time. People are like, but I went to my doctor and I asked for my hormones to be tested. And people feel like they're stupid for asking. People feel dismissed. And even when they do get those hormones tested, there is no good understanding of what those results are from their doctor. So it's useless. It's really, truly useless.
So do people ask you, okay, Dr. Maggie, then what should I be asking for? What tests should I be asking for?
I think it's I understand the question, but it's like literally asking the blind to lead the blind, right? So for me, here's the deal. If you're dealing with doctors who don't know anything about hormone balancing, they never test hormones. They don't know the right kind of test to do. They don't know the right time to do. They only read the little corner that says normal results. They don't know what the hell to do results. Why are you even bothering asking me what tests to do on which exact hormones to test or whatever? Because here's the thing is you and your doctor will have no clue what to do with those results. Right? It's almost like user input is going to be as good as the user's ability to understand what it is that you're testing and what to do with it. But doctors have no training on what to do with it. So for me, that's the problem, because I'll tell you right now, so many people will go and say, oh, I got my hormones tested, and they might have 1 or 2 or maybe 20 tested, but then it's useless knowledge. It's useless knowledge. So, absolutely, ovarian hormones, male testicular hormones are definitely going to need to be tested. Absolutely, adrenal hormones are going to be needed tested. Absolutely, thyroid hormones need to be tested. But the problem is they're all ordering the wrong tests and they don't know what the hell to do with it. And even if they order the right test, they still don't understand the underlying issue, which is this. And that leads us into actually myth number 2. Because in myth number 2, the next myth that we're going to be talking about is that people will end up begging their doctors for their hormones to be tested, only to be told your numbers are normal.
Okay, Look at this. Marty even said, my hormone tests are normal, but I'm super sick. So that
Yeah,
that
you should be
your
super
point.
sick of your doctors, Marty. Okay? Because that's not true. I have never seen a normal hormone result in someone with autoimmune disease. Do you understand that? But the issue is that I am an expert in hormone balancing, right? And hormone balancing, what that means and what we teach in our Transform Fundamentals program is you get your results, right? We do saliva hormone testing. We send out the test kit in our program and you get the results. You go through learning modules to understand what I call the hormone patterns that trigger autoimmunity.
Aha. And see, that's the thing. Who else knows about these patterns? I don't think your doctor, your PCP, even perhaps your functional doctor knows about these patterns, Dr. Maggie.
That's the issue. It's not the number you're trying to get an answer to. Like, so here's the thing. People are like, oh, I checked my estrogen and it looks normal. Oh, come on. I can't hit my head harder against the monitor or screen on my phone. I could break a phone with that. And then you're hearing this from your doctor. So I would love the graduates in our program right now, alumni, to talk about how, I'm going to Jeopardy question for my student teachers who are in the live right now. Is it the number of the estrogen or whatever hormone we're testing that matter, or is it the patterns? The pattern is, what is the relationship of one hormone to another? That relationship is the pattern. So what? This is in the normal range and this is in the normal range. What's the relationship between these two or these 6 hormones? That's the pattern. And if you're missing the boat with that and you're just looking, what is the number of estrogen? Oh, it's normal, it's fine. Come on, really? That's where we're at in the Stone Ages with this? We are not in the Stone Ages with hormone balancing. And yet the way we train there is no training for doctors. It's freaking in the Stone Ages. So we have someone like Marty. We have people who are like sitting here struggling with this. And then they finally beg their doctors or they manage to find somebody to order hormones and they're told it's normal. Amy said, I knew I had issues with blood tests was normal, but I found out in the course what the patterns were. Well, that's the other thing. There are differences if you're checking it between blood, saliva, and urine. And depending on the kind of doctor you're working with and their level of experience, they can all 3 be decent. And there's pros and cons to them. There's pros and cons to all 3 of them. I have used all 3 and I know all 3 intimately, right? So it's not like necessarily one is superior to the other. You know what's superior to the other? The doctor you're working with who knows what the hell they're doing with that set of data. And then the other thing, Anne, is it's like when someone tests from blood and then do saliva and then do urine and then they're putting all these results together, they don't understand the difference between the tests. And they're like, but wait, I got this test and it told me I was high on this. And now I did this test and it says I was low on this. And I'm like, because it's really important to be consistent. Give me 1 second. It's really important to be consistent with the type of testing you use and consistent with the expert you're working with. And in our program, that's you, to know exactly how to compare apples to apples type of hormones so you can truly see what is the trend in that pattern. That trend in that pattern is going to be what's going to be turning around your autoimmune disease.
Because just share for people who have not been through your program, you do teach everybody that goes through to be their own expert. I mean, you have a whole module on hormones, right? And they learn, okay, what do they need to test? What should those numbers look like? What kind of patterns are we looking for? So that the doctor can order it, but then they themselves can interpret the results.
In our program, people learned how to order their own test results. Come on, stop begging Dumbos for your lab work. Come on. I'm sorry. God, now that's the Stone Age again. It's like, go beg people who's the gatekeeper for you for the crucial testing that you need to actually save your own life. Why the hell are we doing that? So that's the other thing, Anne. It's like I'm a little bit I'm really hot under the collar around how we have gatekeepers who are dumber than you telling you no. So in our program, we actually teach our clients how to exactly order any of the kind of blood work or hormone testing that they need themselves. And they learn exactly a master's degree, a skill set on actually how to understand these patterns and what to do about it. And there's immediate tangible results with turnaround in their autoimmunity.
And you have this both in your program and you have a whole separate program just about hormones.
Yeah. So just to differentiate, we have our main program, the Transform Fundamentals program, where people work with us for 2 months online to get the whole kit and caboodle. hormones, blood sugar, food mapping, gut healing, vitamin nutrient density, all the kit and caboodle blood work, and all the training in every single one of those 5 pillars. And that's our main Transform Autoimmune Fundamentals program. Now, we also have a separate program. It's a standalone program called My Hormone Masterclass. And there are some people who are saying like, oh, that's my first step in starting with this is I just want to start with working on hormones first. That's what I can afford, or that's the piece I want to chew on first. So we do have a standalone program called My Hormone Masterclass, which is ideal for a lot of people. I will say that about 20% of people in our Transform Fundamentals main program really came from My Hormone Masterclass and then going into the main program. Mm-hmm. So therefore, that's a really good way to, number one, My Hormone Masterclass, best way to, number one, get the right hormone testing done at the right time. We send a saliva test kit to you. Number two is get the educational modules to really understand what those patterns are. And number three, and that's going to change how that works depending on their evolutions of this. But currently, the current My Hormone Masterclass that we're running, it does at the end of the program include a consultation with me to go over those results to make sure that's exactly what's needed to be done. We have done this program live in the past where we've done this in a group, but regardless, there's going to be a way to go over your hormones live to make sure that that's exactly what you should be doing. And the cool thing about it, as you're learning about turning around your hormones, you're starting to piece together how that impacts upon all these other 5 pillars. So it's a great place to start, and it's called My Hormone Masterclass. We're putting there's a link right there if you want to learn more about it. But that is a good answer right now as to what can I do as the next step? Can I start with the hormones? Great. But if you're like, I need the whole kit and caboodle, then we're going to put a link to chat with our team so you can learn more about the entire 5 pillars around autoimmunity.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. That's just really helpful to know that you can get hormonal help in multiple ways through you and your team. All right. So your numbers are normal. You have busted that one right up.
Well, give me 1 second on this. We are live. Give me a second. Here we go. We have busted that myth, but I'm going to ask right now, how many people in the audience right now are alumni or people who've been my Hormone Masterclass who were told that your hormones were normal, who learned in the program that it wasn't? Tell people what your pattern was, and tell people what results you were able to get as a result of balancing your hormones. I want real people to share the real outcomes. Don't take it from me.
Okay, so how many different patterns are there?
I would say there's probably at least 5 or 6 main patterns, but they all look slightly different on each person, which is why it's important for me to teach these skill sets, right? So I mean, we always talk about one of the worst patterns is estrogen dominance, and people don't even go to your doctor and ask if they know what that means.
I know. And I mean, the average person, how could they know if their doctor doesn't know? When you think estrogen dominance, I mean, does that just mean high estrogen? But now what I'm hearing you say is, no, it's got to be in relation to other numbers, right?
Other hormones. Estrogen is dominant over what?
Progesterone? Testosterone? I have no idea.
You don't. Nobody, like, they don't either. This is why we have a whole program about that. Amy Flowers has said my estrogen dominance, mild PCOS, and fatty liver. Think about the level of education it takes a person who's a non-medical professional after going through my Hormone Masterclass to be able to say that. And none of her doctors are really even going to understand what any of those things really mean. I love this. I mean, she is 100 times smarter than any other doctor that she's ever been to about hormones. Period. Boom. So I'm tired. I am tired. And Alexandra saying mine was normal. Alexandra, yours isn't normal. And Alexandra, tell me in chat what autoimmune struggles you struggle with. And I'll tell you right now, they were not normal at all. I've never seen a normal result with someone having some autoimmune issues going on, period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in some cases, I'm sure it can be obvious. And in some cases, it's maybe not obvious that your hormones are disrupting and causing more issues with your autoimmunity.
Well, and that's a good point. You will have no idea like how many times, because we talk to over 100 people a week who's interested in joining our programs. And we do an assessment of where they are. We ask a lot of information. We ask a lot of questions to assess where their symptoms is. And we also assess what their awareness is on what their issues are. And I would say 80% of people coming on the calls will say, yeah, I know hormones is a big problem. You'd be surprised how many people, like 20%, that's 1 in 5 that will come in and say, no, I don't have a problem with hormones. Meanwhile, there's because I had a hysterectomy.
Oh, there you go.
I don't have any hormone problems. I had my hormones replaced. I'm taking hormones. And yet they're sitting here like, oh, but I'm having insomnia. I'm having anxiety. Oh my God, I'm having the worst pain flare. Oh my God, I got this terrible infection in my gut. Oh, my toe and my foot, it hurts. And I don't have a hormone problem. I had a hysterectomy or I'm taking hormones. Oh.
Yeah. And that that's one of the myths, right? I mean, we skipped 3, but let's just go to 4 then, because post-hysterectomy hormones don't matter. Myth?
Right? And I hear this, and it's not because you're dumb. It's because your doctors are. And it's not even because they're dumb if they never got the training. If they got the training and then they told you a lie, then that's dumb. But they don't have the training.
Ignorant to it.
Ignorant. So a lot of doctors will say, you've had a hysterectomy, you've dealt with your hormone problems, you're fine. Think about this for a second, everybody. Okay. If you had a hysterectomy, let's say the reason most women will get a hysterectomy is because they're bleeding a lot. They may have fibroids, they may have endometriosis. That is a pattern we call estrogen dominance that causes it, right? And estrogen dominance doesn't just cause heavy bleeding. It can cause tons of autoimmune havoc, weight, liver issues, blood sugar issues, tons of other disease states, even certain types of cancers, right? So what they do is they say, well, you're bleeding. And you go to a surgeon, you'll get a surgery. They say, that's fine, you're bleeding. Let's get rid of your uterus. They get rid of your uterus and they say, you're fine now. But those ovaries are still there with the same hormone pattern of estrogen dominance. So then you sit here gaining a shit ton of weight, can't sleep, new autoimmune diseases, more pain, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, depression, anxiety, brain fog, no libido. And then you're like, but can you check my hormones? No, you've had a hysterectomy, little lady. You're fine.
So frustrating.
Or they've removed your ovaries. That's the other one. Oh, I've had a hysterectomy. I removed my ovaries. I'm fine. Oh my gosh. That one's like, oh, really? So now you're missing a crucial organ for making and balancing hormones. Like, think about it, between your ovaries, your adrenals, and your thyroid, and your pancreas, and your brain hormones. Suddenly, you're just like, I just removed a hormone making organ. Now I'm fine. How much sense does that make?
Very little. And it's so unfortunate too, because perhaps there are other ways to address it, it sounds like, than having to go through surgery.
That is absolutely correct. But I actually will say, go to a surgeon, you'll get surgery, right? But this kind of leads me to the next myth, because some people who've had hysterectomies and some people who haven't will say, yes, I've had hysterectomy. I've had the ovaries removed, yes or no, but I'm taking hormones. Therefore, I'm fine. And your doctor would say, you're fine, little lady. I prescribed you some hormones.
Okay. And a lot of people do get, when they're having hormonal issues, that's the direction they get sent. They get sent to a doctor that then can prescribe them the hormones or do the pellets, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. And this is a sad thing. And this is the thing that to me, this is the meat here. I really want you guys to pay close attention. Okay. So when you get sent by your primary or by even a natural doctor to go to some functional doctor or naturopath because they're the hormone expert, what that really means is they're what I call pellet pushers. Okay. Mm-hmm. So hormone prescribing has become a racket, which means that if I write you a prescription for hormones, right, that you have to I was a bioidentical hormone expert, right? I compounded hormones for people. I didn't make any money off of those prescriptions, right? And yet those were some of the better ways to give hormones, right? But then if nowadays, because people make so much money off of giving hormone pellets, think about it, $500 to $1,000 a pop every couple of months, you need to go get one. Why would I as a doctor write a prescription for you or try to balance your hormones when I could just get one pellet in, next one? It's like literally a cow factory. Like, boom, let's put that one in. Next cow. Boom, let's do that in. Next cow. $500 a pop, $1,000 a pop. Here we go.
And is there any follow-up at all then to monitor to see?
But these are your hormone experts. They're not hormone balancing experts. They're pellet pushers who give you high dose hormones because pellets give a very high dose of hormones. And once they're that high, you can't even what are you going to do? They're stuck in you for months. I've had women with male levels of testosterone, which is 10 times their normal amount because of a pellet, right? So that's the issue is that and it's not even that. Now that's just one group, the pellet pushers, right? Those are, I call them drug pushers, the pellet pushers. They're procedure drug pushers. They're the fat cow, hormone cow factory. Go there, have fun with that. Or you go to a doctor who's like prescribing you oral pills or patches or different things, and good intent. You're post hysterectomy. I'm gonna prescribe you some hormones. But the problem is they don't understand how to actually test your hormones to know what your imbalances are.
Mhm.
And they don't necessarily do even if they don't understand in the first place, how do they know they prescribe you the right hormones? And then how do they monitor you to make sure that you don't develop or turn into more worsening patterns? This is a big problem because I have a case study. And Cynthia, and I don't know if Cynthia and her daughter's in the audience. Cynthia is in her late 70s. And we tested her hormones while she was in the program. And she was taking hormones from a doctor who, in good intention, was trying to balance her hormones. Her hormones were like male level of hormones and someone in their 30s level of hormones and someone who's in their 70s, which is completely inappropriate, right?
And then does that help fuel additional autoimmune issue?
She did.
Yeah.
She was sick as hell taking these hormones. And then now we got, we started working on clearing some of those hormones, balancing the hormones. 6 months later, we did a hormone retest, right? And which reviewed yesterday. And when we retested her hormones, we found that she actually had already in her pretty high levels of hormones. Her testosterone was super high, which means this woman in her 70s have PCOS. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, another pattern that's really linked with hormone havoc and autoimmune health. And so that is another thing where people are just like, oh, you can't have hormone balances postmenopausal, or I'm old or something. I don't have hormone balances. We got a 70-year-old with PCOS, hormone levels of like a 22-year-old that someone prescribed a hell of a lot of hormones to.
And you were saying
didn't need it in the first place.
Didn't even need it in the first place, right? Because you said that her testosterone levels were much higher than they were the level of a 30-year-old man.
A double of what a 30-year-old woman should be, right?
Oh, okay.
She wasn't at the male level, but she was double of what like a 30-year-old woman should be as a 70-year-old. And this is her without hormones for 6 months. So why the hell does someone prescribe her those hormones in the first place? Which comes to my conclusion here. In fact, because people out there are prescribing these hormones, just because they prescribe hormones, whether it's pellets, whether it's pills, patches, or even if they compound the hormones, it doesn't mean that they're an expert in hormone balancing. They may not understand anything about how to balance those hormones. So trash in, trash out, meaning like person didn't even test her hormones, gave her a ton of hormones, worse trash coming out of it. So that's the problem. And that's where we're sitting. And so that's the problem with the I'm taking hormones and I'm good. This is your doctor who believes I'm prescribing you hormones and you're good. They don't know jack shit about hormone balancing.
And I'm curious how, are there other ways to address balancing your hormones other than taking hormones? I mean, other pillars in the program, I imagine.
So much. That's the thing is, I mean, and I tell you, it's like, we don't just have one module and around hormones. We're constantly upgrading the content. We're actually, the hormone modules have gotten so big, we're separating it into 2 weeks. There's going to be 2 whole weeks around ovarian and testicular hormones alone, because it is so rich. And so much of the program, each pillar really builds to it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know anybody, and I'm going to ask people in the program right now, if you're in chat, think about, and we talked about this just in the training yesterday, where I said, a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to wait till I get my hormones and suddenly then I'm going to be working on my hormones. And then what they don't realize is every single pillar, every single module we go through in the program actually feeds into the hormone modules, and they're already balancing their hormones by the time they get there. And the results, it's almost like the bow that we're going to tie on it. Is there a lot you can do with hormones? I'm going to tell you right now already. Why do we do the 10-day water challenge the first 10 days people are in our Transform program? Why did we bring that into the Facebook group? Because I just went through a training in the program where I talked about how just water can balance hormones. And because somebody said yesterday, all I did was drink water, Dr. Maggie, the last 2 weeks, and my sex drive is so much better, and sex is so much better. And I was like, I know. That's why I put it first.
Well,
Because
and that makes sense. I mean, so it seems to me biologically, then the water is doing something to move things throughout your body to where they need to go. I mean, can you explain a little bit about why that works?
there's so much I went into a 20-minute training in the program. So all I'm going to say is that water it's actually inherent into every pillar. It's going to help with your digestion. It's going to help with your blood sugar. It's going to help the enzyme activity that makes hormones and break down hormones. It's going to help hydrate your stool, which makes you go poop every day, so you don't reabsorb all the hormones and toxins. It's going to help your good bacteria actually function at the best to help break down hormones. It's going to help your liver actually activate your liver to break down hormones. So it's like, what the hell doesn't
What
water?
does it not do? And if you missed the 10-day water challenge, I know you guys just wrapped one up here a few weeks ago. You might do, what do you do? 2 a year
Nothing.
usually?
Nothing. What are you saying? What are you saying? Where are you going with this, Ann?
I'm just saying, maybe I know you did one, but if you missed it, you'll have
If you
one
missed our
maybe.
10-day water challenge, we run it twice a year in our Facebook group. We don't go in depth into the water challenge at any other time. So really stick around and keep your eyes open so that when we do run it, it's a hell of a ride and it's a lot of fun and it's a lot of education. That being said, it's not just about water. I will tell you right now, there isn't one pillar that we visit that doesn't have something huge to do with hormones. Right. So if you think about the food mapping, why do we do food mapping? To isolate exactly which foods is triggering your autoimmune disease? Because that food warring in your gut actually inhibits your body's ability to break down hormones. So like it's so weird. Like there's so many questions like just around even food mapping. As someone asked today, I have MS, so someone told me I shouldn't eat eggs. Should I not eat eggs? And for me, it's like it's so much bigger than that, right? And
What
yeah,
is your thing to say?
but that's not her fault. It's like
Right.
her doctors don't know anything. She's trying to do something right, and
Well,
she's
and that's nice that her doctor even told her that food matters because so
I
many
don't
people.
even think it's her doctor. She said someone said she should stop
Okay.
eating eggs. And that's like the worst advice I've ever heard in my freaking life
Yeah.
because eggs are so nutrient dense. And it's like, if you don't have a food sensitivity, if you don't have food mapping results that says you shouldn't eat eggs, why the hell would you stop something incredibly nutritious like that? That could be a game changer for you, right?
Mm.
So for me, like there's 5 pillars we got, everybody. And if you are starting to think about it, you're thinking about, the digestion, the food mapping, the blood sugar, the hydration. You're talking about gut healing. What does your blood work say? What does your thyroid lab testing say? What does your hormones say? If you're starting to realize that all these are tied together and that the right or not just the right content of what to do, but the right order really matters. That's what the Transform Fundamentals program is really about. So if you want to chat with our team about that, I'm going to put a link in there so you can learn more about our Transform program. We also have a training called the 5 pillars where I go through these exact 5 pillars, and every single pillar is going to just blow your mind because each pillar itself, none of your doctors know about, but also what's the right order to do them and how did they connect together is what I do in the 5 pillars training. So if you want to learn more about the 5 pillars, put it in the comment section, but do tell me what's going on with your autoimmunity because we have tons of case studies and other trainings that we could hook you up with. Just on hormones alone, I have probably about 50 trainings that I've done.
50. Well, it just shows you how important it is. Okay, you talked, I think we might have did we brush over number 3 about postmenopausal, so hormones don't matter? You talked about your case study, so that maybe we did talk about that a little bit, but I know you talked about post-hysterectomy.
Yeah.
Should we run through the 5 myths again, just to make sure everybody heard them all?
Yeah, the first myth is you don't need to get your hormones tested. Myth number 1 busted. Myth number 2 is what was the second one?
Your numbers are normal.
Your hormone numbers are normal, so you're fine. Next myth is you're postmenopausal, so your hormones don't matter or they're fine. And then number 4 is you're post-hysterectomy, and so your hormones don't matter and you're fine. Or number 5, you're taking hormones and you're fine. All of those is, there you go, little lady, you're fine. And I'm going to just tell you guys, get mad. Like seriously, get mad and do something about it and get educated. And there's no one coming to educate you. They don't know, right? And so that's the problem, man, is that I feel like hormones is this big thing, but there are very few people to go to that you can really trust, right? Hormone prescription doesn't equal hormone balancing. The work that's done for hormone balancing is educating you around all the things that you can do to balance your hormones. And sometimes you need a little bit of hormones. And if you do, super low doses for hormone balancing, not these huge, crazy ass pellet doses, oral prescriptions, or even patches that can make some of these underlying hormone patterns worse.
Because it's like when you read about autoimmunity in general on any given website, there will usually be a caveat that says it affects more women than men, so hormones likely play a role in autoimmunity. But that's about all of the information you get on hormones and autoimmunity.
Well, and why aren't we talking about men? I mean, that's the other thing. Give me a second. Sorry. We're live. Sorry. There we go.
And it's, yeah, Marty does say I'm mad because also when you think about this, you have talked about this several times, how oftentimes somebody will be diagnosed with an autoimmune condition after a hormonally sensitive period in their life.
Yeah. And the thing is, yes, absolutely. And I hope that resonates with every one of you, because I haven't met a woman with autoimmune disease where it wasn't triggered by hormones. It was time when the hormones were really changing, period. Think about that fact, everyone. But let's bring it to men. Okay. These hormone balance imbalances exist in men. These hormone patterns exist in men. And you men out there, this is triggering your autoimmune disease. Okay. Men have hormones too. Men have testes that make hormones. Men have adrenals that make hormones we're talking about the sex hormones, right? Men have thyroids too. And so what's interesting is, why is it that women get more autoimmune disease than men? It's because women have more times when their hormones change. But that doesn't mean men don't have times when their hormones change. So believe it or not, we see an onset of autoimmune disease in young teenage boys and men around their early 20s, because that's when their hormones, testosterone levels are really revving up. And we then again, between the age around 40 to 55, we see men hit again with autoimmune disease, because there is such a thing as menopause. And menopause is really when the male hormones are really starting to decline. But when they decline super fast, often when those with autoimmunity, boom, that turns it on.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it's a hormonally sensitive period in anyone's life, man or woman, boy
Right.
or girl.
Exactly. So all of this applies to men as well. And someone also just mentioned something about birth control pills. I'm looking at the comments. So you guys fill it with questions. If you don't have any questions, we'll end this early. But if you have questions, put it in here. I mean, who the hell is going to answer all these questions for you? That truly is an expert in hormone balancing. I'm surprised more people aren't putting in questions and telling me about you. But
people sometimes do get a little bit, when we talk about hormones, sometimes people do get a little shy about it because it can be a sensitive, touchy subject. I understand, but please just let us know. Tell us what's going on with you. You were mentioning birth control. I know that happens to so many people, and it can be looking back as one of the earliest symptoms or precursors for future autoimmune disease development potential, right? If you're getting put on birth control pills, maybe young because you're having some sort of irregular cycling.
Right. So that's the interesting thing, right? Birth control pills. Yes, some of us take it for birth control, but a lot of people are prescribed birth control pills to quote unquote deal with their underlying hormone problems, having periods, acne, migraines, endometriosis, PCOS. And so what happens is, you guys know what birth control pill is. Birth control pill is high dose fake synthetic hormones designed to take it orally so that it's completely nuclear and suppresses your own hormone making so you don't ovulate. Okay. So we already have huge hormonal imbalances. So what we're going to do is give you nuclear level of high dose fake hormones to crush your own hormone production. So that will fix your autoimmune issues and your hormonal issues. Are we just replacing one problem by not dealing with it, an original hormone balance, by creating a fake synthetic Dr. iatrogenally created fake hormonal hell filled with what we call fake or xenoestrogens, fake estrogens, even from the environment? We are creating worse hormone problems by these prescriptions of birth control pills to deal with these underlying hormone imbalances. And then we're also being pummeled with fake estrogens. So this is a really big epidemic, It's actually a hormonal disaster happening in all of our bodies and to our children's bodies.
So not only does it not fix your issues, but you're saying it can make them worse. Your hormonal issues can become worse, and certainly your autoimmune issues can.
They do. Right. So it's interesting because PCOS, I mean, I've done many videos around PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. There's so many myths around that could be a totally 3-hour live. But what I can say is that PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, so many of you haven't, you don't even realize it because your doctors don't know how to recognize it. And again, that's another one. People are like, you don't have high testosterone, you don't have PCOS. They're forgetting all about the relationships. Well, they've never been trained. So PCOS is a precursor. Sorry, babe. He needs to go potty. PCOS is the precursor to diabetes. We know that already. And diabetes is an autoimmune disease. So what is PCOS? An autoimmune disease. And yet, we give them birth control pills.
Yep.
We give them birth control pills, which is known to cause leaky gut, certain severe vitamin deficiencies, which can actually cause more hormonal health and worsening symptoms that can be related with autoimmunity.
I don't think most people know that birth control pills can contribute to leaky gut.
Mm-hmm.
And what else did you say it can contribute to?
Key vitamin deficiencies that are really crucial for those people with autoimmunity.
And yet it's being prescribed very readily as the solution to a lot of issues.
Correct. So the remedies that we do for, all upfront is already wrong, not testing and not understanding it, no training around it, hormone pellet and prescription versus actual hormone balance. That philosophically is already a big problem. And then the prescriptions themselves can become actually problematic and triggering for autoimmune disease, chronic pain, leaky gut, you name it, severe digestive issue, vitamin deficiencies. So it just keeps going on and on and on. And it's a cycle that we are in.
I know that you're so sympathetic to people out there because this is really frustrating. They feel like they don't have many places or anywhere to turn unless, hopefully, luckily, they've now found you because they know they need help. Maybe they're getting gaslit by a doctor. Maybe they are trying to get help from a doctor, but then they're not getting anywhere because interpreting it is so challenging. What do you want to say to people out there who are struggling with this, feeling frustrated?
Yeah. What I'm going to tell you is there's totally solution around this, and it's called learning how to balance your hormones. Like, you got to learn how to test, balance your hormones, and that's going to be crucial for not just your hormonal health, your daughter's hormonal health, your son's, your husband's, but also your autoimmunity, right? So it starts with you. And I would recommend in the comment section right now, this whole be shy thing, get rid of it, forget about it. Like, when there's a resource sitting in front of you like this, I don't know why you guys aren't taking advantage of this. What I recommend is put in the comment section what hormone symptoms you're struggling with, what autoimmune issues you're struggling with, and check your message requests in Facebook for some questions from us, because I'd love to get more trainings to you. I'd love to share some case studies with you. You are not alone, and this absolutely could be crushed. I'm not just crushing some myths. I'm telling you, you can crush your hormone balancing. You absolutely can do this because no doctor is going to come save you. They are not coming to save you. They know less than you do. At this very moment, they know less than you do.
I think you might have posted that on Facebook the other day, and it actually hit me because it was something to the effect of, no one is coming to save you. You have to get up and do something about it for yourself.
No one came to save me, Anne. Okay. In fact, my colleagues were sitting here like, you don't need to have your hormones tested, Maggie. Why don't you get on the birth control pill and antidepressants? That's their answer. You know what happened to me? I got fatter, madder, and sicker. And I realized I had to become the hero in my own story. I had to do something about this. Hey, it took me 16 years from then to be where I am today. So I've invested a lot of time, education, learning, and experience helping. I mean, I probably have worked with at least 6,000-7,000 people on hormones over the course of my career. And so I love the fact that, do you want to take 16 years like me to do this and over $1 million educated in my own tuition and disability to do this? Or do you want to just learn it the quick and easy way, which is start telling us what's going on, check out my YouTube channel and check out all the different trainings I've done on hormones. I mean, every topic, every symptom you think about related to hormones, I've done a training around. So check that out. But if you need help directing where it's going to be, comment right now. And actually, what I'm going to do is let's put a link for you to message us. We'll put a link for you to message us, whether you're watching from YouTube or anywhere else, or Facebook. Click that link and send us a message to tell us what's going on with your hormones and what's going on with your autoimmunity, where you think you need help. I've done a training around it, and we have had tons of case studies of someone just like you who've beaten it. So I'd love to share that with you. Don't sit here and not do something about this now that you know better. Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better. But when you know better and you don't do better, you know better than your doctors.
Absolutely. And I know you mentioned you have so many case studies to show when somebody came in, maybe either they knew or they didn't know that they had hormonal issues, but through your program, they were able to learn those patterns. And then you were able to help them implement changes to turn it around. And just share with me in general, I know I've interviewed so many alumni who said this too, everything changes for them then. Their autoimmune issues improve.
Everything changes. Everything changes. And it's so interesting. I'm seeing people ask questions here about Hashimoto's, about Raynaud's, about Sjogren's. I'm seeing lupus here. I'm seeing ulcerative colitis, Crohn's. And none of these things are scary to me, or, like I eat all those diagnoses for breakfast. And the reason is because people have no clue that it's not just Remicade, Humira, or prednisone, or methotrexate, or Plaquenil. It's because there's literally hundreds of other tools and skill set that they can learn for themselves that will absolutely turn these things around fast. And absolutely, hormones it's a game changer, and it's a clincher.
Clinch it. You've busted 5 top myths about hormones that your doctors probably believe.
They believe. Now, are you going to believe it? That's my question for you. What are you going to do about it? I would say first thing, go check out the YouTube channel or send us a message and tell us what's going on with you. And we can direct you to exact trainings and case studies that can turn this around for you.
Right. I know this was so helpful. Personally, I've shared this with you before. I'll share it with you again. I found you because I struggle with my own hormones. I know it is a big problem for what's fueling my autoimmunity. And my functional medicine doctor, who I will say is wonderful in many ways, straight up said to me, I'm not a hormone expert and I need you to find one. And she tried to send me to somebody that you wouldn't have recommended. And then I told her about you and she said, yes. Go with that, because she knew of you and she said Dr. Maggie would be a great choice. There's just nobody else out there that I've been able to find that has your expertise in hormones and autoimmunity. So thank you for sharing all of this information.
You're very welcome. And thanks, Anne. And for you guys in the Facebook group, I'm glad some of you are saying I'm getting mad, but don't just get mad, get active, do something about this, interrupt this pattern. If you don't do some sort of pattern interrupt, nothing will change. And if you fear change, nothing will ever change. That's a wrap. Thanks.